What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel as well as on Twitch, so make sure you come by and say hello. This video is also brought to you by my music, which is available anywhere you stream music under the name Aftersound, and I do have a new song out recently called Don't Forget About Me, the Supernova version, so check it out. Let me know what you think, and I appreciate the support. All right, guys, let's talk about grain, because in the last grain video that I put out, I got a little too excited, right? We saw a massive drop off in the amount of grain after just a couple of days, but it normalized out over time as people started probably harvesting. And so now that we have a couple of weeks worth of data, specifically about 2 weeks worth of data, I think we can get a better average. So I think my initial post or my initial video was probably a little too clickbaity, because I'm like, at this rate, we're going to run out of grain in like 30 days. Obviously, that's not going to happen. We went from like 8.2 or 8.4 down to 8.2 in like a day, but then everything, like I said, people harvested, it went up back up to 8.3, and we've just been kind of like chopping around. That being said, 2 weeks later, we have dropped from roughly 8.4 billion down to just under 7.8 billion, which means that, like I said, on average, if we're looking at this across 2 weeks, or we'll say half a month, that's 600 million DEC that did, 600 million grain that did get consumed. Let's extrapolate that, multiply it by 2 to get our monthly consumption, and that's about 1.2 billion grain per month that is being consumed, right? Net of everything that's going on. So if you look at where we're at right now with roughly 7.8 billion and keep that monthly run rate of 1.2 billion, that gets us to about 6, maybe a little bit more than 6 months worth of grain. I guess you could say maybe close to 6.5 months worth of grain, but there's a lot that's going to be happening in these next 6 months, right? So as we're moving forward, there's going to be obviously some use cases for research coming into play with Conclave Arcana. There might be some use cases for the other types of resources with mage wagons, or the conflict wagons, right? We don't know the full details yet. There was, again, some talk about this a while back of using some of the resources to do so. Again, grain probably wouldn't be a part of that directly, right? Like, you don't use grain to make a wagon, but you could use wood, stone, and ore, and therefore you'd have to, supply each of the units that are producing that with grain. So as we get more and more land utilization coming in, and utilization of land resources, utilization of research, I would expect this run rate for us to kind of stay the same, right? Roughly 1.2 billion per month, unless, of course, people are turning on more grain plots, or turning off research, turning off SPS, and turning back on grain, or adding new grain plots. Now, we haven't really quite seen that yet. In fact, let's go here and see if there's any new, look, our land stake is still 1.485 billion. So no new DEC has gotten staked on land. Nobody has been, at least not in mass, like adding more land plots or adding more dark energy to their land, or their land holdings and production. So again, unless we start to see that go up, I would say we could probably assume grain consumption to remain the same, or maybe even increase, right? And so if you watch the previous land videos that I put out, one of the things that's being teased now is that there's going to be a new work site as well as a new resource, which means there's going to be even more competition for space, right? Real estate is limited in this sense. There's only 150,000 plots. And as it stands right now, however many are online, we haven't seen many more get online. And so the question then becomes, right, if somebody is going to switch one of their plots into whatever this new work site is to produce or harvest this whatever new resource is, what are they going to choose? Is it going to be grain? Is it going to be one of the other ones, right? Like now this is where, like I said, this is why I'm excited about land, because this is where it gets exciting, right? Maybe they choose to turn off SPS. That seems like an easy one, especially since there's other ways. It's easier to get SPS. Maybe they choose to turn off research because it's like, oh, I'm not competing for leaderboard anyway, or I have enough that I've saved up for a while, so let me switch things over. But at the end of the day, like, grain is still, one of the most highly produced, at least from what I'm seeing, right? And even with that, it is getting consumed in a massive quantity. So again, this is not financial advice. I'm not saying to go ham on grain and go buy a bunch out there. I have no idea what's going to happen to the price, but seeing the supply dwindle is a very good sign, because that means that we are still working towards whatever that equilibrium is going to be. And the beautiful thing about this with land and just with the game in general and where things are at right now with Splinterlands and how the team is doing, well in terms of just firing on all cylinders and putting stuff out on a much more frequent basis, especially if we get land stuff every couple of months, that equilibrium is going to change every couple of months. Every time we get something new. I mean, we just got land 1.75 in March, and there's a chance that we get, a couple different land utilities within the next, 2-3 months, or 2 months, I should say at this point, right? Like if we do get something with the new work sites, with the ALPs, if it has something to do with like black foils, I'm assuming that has to be ready by May 13th when Conclave Arcana comes out. And then, the wagons might not be ready. The conflicts might not be ready. They might push that a month just like they did with Rebellion. That might not come out until June, but we're looking at 2 additional utilities two additional features added to land within 3 months after 1.75 comes out. So that makes me excited for like, oh, well, if they can do that in a couple of months, and Cryptomancer's talk about how like he's gotten the code in a much better place now, and it's easy for him to add things here and there, and they can kind of like tweak things as they go along and be much more nimble. Like, yeah, I mean, Q3 is exciting. Q4 is exciting too, right? We'll see how this moves forward. But getting back to the core of this video, which is grain, we're continuing to see that dwindle. And at this point in time, again, I'm estimating that we are going to find some kind of equilibrium at the very least within the next like 6-ish months or so. But as I said earlier, that equilibrium is going to be thrown off in the next month with Conclave Arcana, in the next 2 months with conflicts, and who knows what else the team might have in the next 3 to 6 months beyond that. So that is all I have for you guys in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, I will catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.